Stop! Before you consider taking drastic measures to lose weight, like GLP-1 injections, consider Golo. Golo's release is easier than injections and fad diets. No need to jump through insurance hoops. It's simple. You take one release supplement with each meal. Golo's release supplement contains 7 natural plants and 3 key minerals that target body fat and combat the stress of dieting. With Golo, you follow the Golo for Life plan, where you'll safely and effectively control sugar cravings and hunger while minimizing muscle loss, allowing you to feel good and inspired to reach your goal weight. With Golo, you get an effective and affordable weight loss solution that's clinically proven, because controlling glucose, maintaining healthy insulin levels, and saying goodbye to starvation dieting is the secret to lasting weight loss and wellness. Visit Golo.com to get started today. That's Golo.com. Go to Golo.com to join the 5 million people who have switched to Golo as a better way to lose weight. Visit GOLO.com today.
Welcome to the Dogs Podcast with your hosts, Blake Reneker, Justin Charles, and Josh All.
What's up, Browns fans? Welcome back to another episode of the Dogs Podcast. Blake and Kenny Mack coming at you tonight. My 3rd episode of the week, so this might be my last episode as a married man. I do 3 episodes in a week very often, so hopefully everything goes okay here. We kind of touched on this in our Dog Pack Discord last night. Kenny and myself are going to try to do an episode every week, just the 2 of us. And the thought process behind this episode is we're going to jump on X, formerly known as Twitter, and we're going to look at the top trending topics that are Browns topics, obviously. And we're just going to kind of give you our 2 cents on the trending topics out there in kind of Browns universe, Browns fandom, and just kind of tell you what we think, if people are onto the right idea, or if we think they're wrong, just kind of give you our 2 cents. So we got some good ones lined up for today. Obviously, it seems like when the Browns are doing the worst, that's when there's like the juiciest stuff to talk about. So I guess maybe that's good for the podcast world, not necessarily the Browns world. But before we get into everything, though, remember, if you want to get your thoughts and your intros on the show, head to thedogspodcast.com, tap leave voicemail. If you prefer to just listen to the show, you can find us on Apple, Spotify, and Google. If you're watching on YouTube and you haven't subscribed yet, please do so. Make sure you have the notification bell tapped so you don't miss any of the new content we're putting out between preview episodes, post-game episodes, Josh's midweek episodes, and now Kenny and myself's episodes. We're putting out tons of content. You don't want to miss any of it. So make sure the notification bell is tapped. You can find us on all the major social media platforms. Just search at the Dogs Podcast. And if you want more Dogs content and you want to be a part of the Dog Pack Discord preview episodes, you want to play fantasy football with us, talk to us throughout the week, meet a bunch of Browns fans from all over the world, head to jointhedogs.com, become an official Dog Pack member on the Patreon page. So we'll keep the intros nice and short and sweet so we can save all of our time for this juicy content. So like I said, we're going to dive into kind of what Browns fans are talking about online, essentially. And I know that's sometimes it's like a dark corner of Browns fandom, but, I guess X is like a big, giant town square. So if people are talking about it on there and it's trending, enough people are talking about it that it's, it's a topic and it's news. So the first one we kind of wanted to get into, and this is a sore subject for a lot of Browns fans, and it hurts me. It might not be as sore of a subject for me because I understood the moves and whatnot, and I was for the moves at the time when they happened, but it definitely hurts because our season's not going as well as we thought it would. But it's just to kind of talk a little bit about how we're struggling so much and kind of some key guys that a lot of people wanted to be back on the Browns that we didn't bring back are now having success this season. And we're obviously talking about Joe Flacco and Kareem Hunt. And just to kind of touch on this, that was extra cruel. Joe Flacco goes out, throws for over 300 yards. Kareem Hunt then plays on Monday night and has over 100 yards and a touchdown. And then in a different sport, Francisco Lindor hits, I think it was a grand slam or at least a big home run to give the Mets a lead. And it was like, it's like God is laughing in Cleveland Browns and Cleveland fans in general's face right now. So it's been a tough day for Browns fans. What do you think, Kenny, when you're watching Joe Flacco go out there, throw for, he's the last Browns quarterback to throw for over 300, and he just said he'd get in a Colts uniform?
Yeah, I mean, that's a tough one. I mean, the way the season went last year, the expectations are super high. And if it wasn't for Joe Flacco, maybe we wouldn't have these high expectations. And the thing is when you're a Browns fan and you're taking a look at what we got now versus what we thought was going to be, it's happening in Indianapolis. He's actually having a chance to play. It looks like he's just kind of started off where he left off last year. It's a different offense. However, the biggest thing is that, what have we always griped about so far this season? Deshaun just ripped the ball. This dude rips it, man. And I was complaining on yesterday's episode. You have a swing pass out to the flats. You got to hit the guy in stride. You can't throw a rainbow up in the air. You can't expect the guy to do anything because guys are just coming down, 1-2 tacklers, sitting his butt down just on swing passes. Like, it seems like such a hard thing. And Joe Flacco has no problem with it. Now, I mean, really, what is he, 1-1 right now? And we're 1-4 right now. So he's only got one win, but still, it looks way better. Like, our offense is so anemic. Like, we just want anything to cheer for. And it's great to see what he's doing, And I don't think it's really much. It wouldn't spend much more than we spent on Winston, right?
No, I can't imagine you would have. Honestly, you might have spent less because I think Winston got like a $10 million deal to be the backup quarterback. Maybe it wasn't that much. I don't know the numbers off the top of my head.
I'll get the numbers while you're talking.
So I obviously, it hurts to see Kareem Hunt or Joe Flacco, we'll get to Kareem Hunt, go out and have a great game while Deshaun is struggling. It's the biggest thing for me when I think about it isn't necessarily the fact that, we could have Joe Flacco and look how much better our offense could be doing. When I think about it, I just think we could have Jameis Winston playing and look how much better our offense would be looking. So I'm not necessarily, I would obviously, like, I enjoyed when Joe Flacco was here and he played well, but I think Jameis Winston could do a lot of what Joe Flacco did last year. He's more mobile. He's a gunslinger, by nature. Like, he's thrown for 5,000 yards. So I don't think it's necessary. I don't necessarily think it's a Joe Flacco thing for me, as it is just that our quarterback's not playing well. And I think we have a quarterback on the roster who would be playing better than who we have starting right now. So good for Joe Flacco. He went to another great situation in terms of he's got playmakers around him and a brilliant offensive head coach who can get the most out of him. I did see, though, he's going back to the bench this week. I think Anthony Richardson is planning to start. So, but for me, obviously, I would love to have Joe doing what he just did for the Colts for the Browns. My argument in why I don't have like buyer's remorse on Joe Flacco is because I think Jameis Winston could do a lot of what Joe Flacco did last year for this team. First of all, he's the guy who pumps up the guys before the game. So a big thing about Joe Flacco is it seemed like guys liked him and they wanted to play for him and they kind of rallied around him. I think the guys would do the same thing for Jameis Winston. Everybody on the team has nothing but great things to say about Jameis Winston, and honestly, everywhere he's played, people love Jameis Winston. So I think you could get a lot of what Joe Flacco gave you last year and what he would be giving you this year in Jameis Winston if we would just make the move to him. So I don't necessarily have remorse in terms of Joe Flacco. For me, it's just more of like, we need to just make the switch to Jameis, and we wouldn't be having that buyer's remorse on Joe Flacco. At least that's the way I feel about it. Jameis could come in and be awful, then I would be having, I'd be daydreaming about Joe Flacco. But until I see Jameis come in, I'm just like, can we just give Jameis a shot? Because I think he gives you a lot of what Joe Flacco gives you.
Yeah, so I think what it is maybe you're a young dog and I'm an old dog. You know what the biggest thing is? It's guys like me that I'll be 50 next year, and I think it's reminiscent of Bernie Kosar and the way he slung it, because Bernie couldn't run, but Bernie could throw. He could read a defense, and he could get the guys pumped up. But Bernie wasn't always a rah-rah guy either. And I think that's where that reminiscent and that connection to the late 1980s team is where that came from. As far as him still being on the team, I get it. It wasn't realistic. They went younger. Jameis is the unknown. I even wrote that in my notes, that we just don't know. We haven't seen what Winston can do. All I know in Winston is there's a W, there's an I, and there's an N. So put him in the damn game. I do have the cap numbers for you. It was, I think, a difference of like $500,000. One was $5 million, one was $4.5 million. So we really couldn't have it. But can you imagine? I'll say crap storm. Do you imagine the crap storm that would happen if Joe Flacco was on this team right now? I think Cleveland Stadium be burnt down. Sorry, Huntington Bank Stadium would be burnt down by now.
That's one of those things where we're already there in people. We haven't even seen Jameis Winston play for this team except for a little bit in the preseason, and people are clamoring for him. I know Deshaun said in his press conference this week that he doesn't hear the people calling for his job. He doesn't hear it. He doesn't see it. Throw an incomplete pass against the Bengals at home. You're going to hear it. You're going to know. It's already. I have a feeling if they do introductions for that Bengals game and they do the offensive players, he might get booed running out of the tunnel. So
yeah. Hey, listen, they booed Baker Mayfield when he couldn't throw a ball, like I said yesterday. So they ain't going to hold back for him.
Yeah. So Kenny would like to see Joe Flacco. I wouldn't argue about seeing Joe Flacco, but me personally, it's less about what Joe Flacco is doing and more about I want to see what Jameis Winston can do. Because I think he gives you. They're kind of a lot of the same player at this point in their career, at least from my understanding. Like Joe Flacco last year, no fear. He's just slinging it. And the throws that he was connecting on that were crazy explosive plays, if you watched them, they were almost interceptions by like this much. And he went to the well too many times sometimes. And he threw a ton of picks. I mean, that's what Jameis is going to give you. Had a 30-30 season and doing the same kind of stuff. So let's just make the switch, please. I guess see how the game on Sunday goes, but if it's more of the same, just make the switch for the love of God, please.
Like his last extended experience was in 2021. He was 5-2 as a starter. He was 59% completion with 1,170 yards, 14 touchdowns, and 3 interceptions. I'm good with that. Put him in. Let's do it.
Yeah, I mean, the completion percentage isn't great, but it seemed like it was with Sean Payton, I'm pretty sure. The picks weren't an issue. I mean, 14-3 is pretty freaking good. So it seems like getting the LASIK helped. I guess then we can kind of talk.
Yeah, 100%.
Kareem Hunt obviously had great years here in Cleveland. The Chunt, everybody loved Kareem Hunt and Nick Chubb. Yeah. They were bros. We brought him back by circumstance last year, and he was kind of like our pound it inside, in between the tackles kind of running back. Had a ton of touchdowns, not necessarily great efficiency. Didn't bring him back this year because and I knew we weren't going to bring him back because I thought he looked slow last year, and I just figured like we weren't going to bring him back again because we were going to go with Ford, and then I liked the signing Deontay Foreman at the time, and Hines was supposed to be here.
Yeah.
And you didn't, so I thought he'd be playing by now. Now he came out and he had 100 yards in a touchdown in that Chiefs game. He had 27 carries, 3.8 yards a carry. I mean, he had a Deontay Foreman game like for us. The difference was instead of getting 8 carries, he got 27 carries. You know what I mean? So I know like Kareem Hunt.
When's the last time one of our backs got 27 carries?
It's been a very long time. And so I don't have as much buyers or more like, I don't think that if Kareem Hunt was in Cleveland right now, he would get the ball 27 times and score a touchdown. And I just don't think that would be happening. I think he'd be Deontay Foreman on our team this year. You know what I mean? Every other game he'd get 10 carries, and then the next game you'd wonder where he was and get 2. And he wouldn't have the chance to just like grind out 27 carries and get a goal line touchdown score. So I'm more happy for Kareem to get to go back to Kansas City and get another season in his belt, maybe get a ring this year because clearly the Browns aren't in contention for that. So I don't have as much hate in that because, again, the Browns also were not the only team. Kareem Hunt was sitting on his couch for a reason. So I don't have as much. I'm more happy for Kareem than I am mad at the Browns because I think if Kareem was on the Browns, he would just be Deontay Foreman this year. That's kind of the way I look at it.
I actually responded to this on social, and while you're talking, the reason I'm looking down is because I'm trying to find my response. But ultimately what I said is the Browns basically went younger, they went faster, they went bigger into Foreman because he's actually 233 pounds. Kareem Hunt's 216, he's 5'11", he is what he is. He's a hard-nosed runner, And he's going to, if you have a big hole, he's going to get you 3 yards. You have a small hole, he's going to get you 2.5. Like, that's just the way he is at this point right now, right? The only thing is when you are in the red zone, he's going to get you a touchdown. Man, that guy can smell the end zone, and he wants to be in there. The other thing that we're missing is his pass block presence, and we're missing his, how can I call it, Jarvis Landry-like locker room presence, because I think the team was more geared up when he was there. And with the guys that they have on the roster right now, who is the guy in the offensive side that's getting everybody excited? It's not Joel Bitonio. It's not Wyatt Teller. It's not any one of the offensive tackles. So who is it? Like, who's the guy? Is it Amari? Is it Chubb? They're all the same dude. You need some guys with some passion. I just don't see it, but Kareem did. So where I miss him and what I think they should have done, I don't need Pierre Strong on the team. No offense, Pierre. I just like Kareem better. I like his pass blocking better, and I want him out and swing passes and a third down back. That's what I wanted, but I do agree with you, and I said in it, while we didn't have space for him, Kareem Hunt found the best situation for him, and once they get their running back in Kansas City back, he's going to be relegated to a different role. Maybe even find him back on the practice squad, and maybe we can get him. Like, I don't know, right? But he's in the best situation now, and like you said, I hope he gets a ring or something.
Yep, I'm happy for Kareem. I agree. We kind of touched on this on our episode. I don't see much leadership on the offensive side of the ball for the Browns. And
no,
like Amari Cooper's kind of like a lead, he leads by example, but he's not a big talker. He's not a rah-rah guy. And as much as important as like leading by example is, you do need, kind of a vocal leader out there, kind of guys to right the ship. And I don't know if we have anybody out there. And a lot of people want to see Kevin getting all hoorah, and he wants to call people out in press conferences and say something else. And my point was, if your coach has to be that, you're not going to be, your team is in trouble. You're not going to be a good football team. You need to be team led. I saw an old interview with, I forget who it was, and he played for the Browns under Kevin, and they asked him about Kevin. He said, Kevin's Kevin. He expects things from us, but he tells us what to do, but he wants us as players to get things right and to handle things and take care of things. And his quote was, good teams are coach-led, great teams are player-led. So, that's my point. If your coach has to be your biggest focal leader and your biggest cheerleader and the guy who's getting you pumped up and all, you're going to be in trouble. That means you don't have any leadership out there on the field, in between the lines where it matters. So I think in your point, Kareem would have been great for that. He would have been good to kind of rally the troops on the offensive side of the ball.
This episode is sponsored by Leaf Filter. Browns fans, whether the team is winning or not, you are the most die-hard, loyal fans in the league, year in and year out. And just like you, Leaf Filter has been supporting clean gutters in Northeast Ohio year after year. And because Leaf Filter is the official gutter guard of the Cleveland Browns, they have a limited time offer for all of you barking dogs. Right now, you can get up to 32% of your entire qualified purchase and 2 free official Browns jerseys at leaffilter.com/dogs. Now, I don't know how many of you have ever cleaned your gutters, but it's a tedious, messy, time-consuming chore. So cut down on your weekend home maintenance, cross off another item on that to-do list so you can spend more time watching football on your days off. Leaf Filter uses award-winning patented technology to keep everything out of your gutters except for the water. Schedule your free gutter inspection today for a free no-obligation estimate on protecting your home from flooding, roof damage, rotting siding, foundation issues, and all those things you really don't need to be dealing with as a homeowner. A Leaf Filter trusted pro will clean out your gutters, realign and seal them before installing Leaf Filter. Schedule your free inspection now, and for a limited time, get up to 32% off your entire qualified purchase and 2 free Browns jerseys at Leaf Filter, leaffilter.com/dogs, DAWGS. That's a free inspection, up to 32% off, and 2 free Browns jerseys with a qualified purchase at leaffilter.com/dogs. Offer valid on a first-come, first-served basis while supplies last. Full terms and conditions can be found at leaffilter.com/dogs. See representatives for warranty details.
Most tax pros leave a message. It's Jane. I'm moving on to a TurboTax expert who beat your price. Adam Devine, tell him how I feel.
Hey, tax pro, she's been thinking twice. Best believe TurboTax will beat your price. This is a tax break.
Switch to a TurboTax Live expert and we'll beat what you paid your pro last tax season. Make the switch at TurboTax.com/beatyourprice. TurboTax full service only. Sign up by 12/20/2024 and file by 4/1/2025. Full details at TurboTax.com/beatyourprice.
So we'll move on. I guess the next thing, we'll kind of blend these two together a little bit, is a lot of people are putting a lot of heat on Kevin Stefanski. I won't necessarily argue with him because you're a 1-4 football team right now. 1-3, we're 1-4, right? Yes.
Yes, 1-4. Yeah.
So obviously the head coach is going to get heat. I think it's a little bit of a unique situation in what's going on in Cleveland right now, because we've seen this coach well before. But so you have people putting a ton of blame on Kevin. This has been an opportunity for the guys who've been Kevin haters for a long time to kind of come back out of their cave after he won Coach of the Year for the second time last year. And you're hearing some chatter about Mike Vrabel.
Dude, I got to tell you something. I had a guy said that he backed into those awards. You don't back into, like, I read this. Somebody actually wasted their time and typed this out, and they'll never get that minute back in their life. But they said that he backed into 2. You don't back into 2. You earn 2. Maybe you back into 1 because you had Justin Jefferson and you had Nick Chubb and you had like just an all-star team. Maybe that's a back into, like, but to do 2 in a row, you know. And the thing that drives me nuts is when people talk about Stefanski, if you get into an argument, like, you know, we're on Twitter, it's all fun, but then you got to drop he's never won a playoff game bomb.
That drives me.
That one's, I was like, check the stat book. It's there, man. Are you saying he had nothing to do that entire 11-5 season to do with that playoff win? He didn't put Prefer. Prefer just came up as a special teams coordinator. Okay, he just came up and go, I got this master plan on offense. I can't teach the kicker how to kick, but I'm gonna get this master plan offense for Baker and make him a superstar. And you know what? I'm gonna make sure that the Steelers fumble on the first play of the game so I can have that 7-point lead. No freaking way, man. Come on.
That drives me nuts when people say that Kevin doesn't have a playoff win. Like he was there all week. We were only in the playoffs because of a lot of his leadership coming into that season, meeting players over Zoom and that kind of stuff during the COVID year. Yes, he has a playoff win. That just is like, that is the dumbest argument I've ever heard when people say he doesn't have a playoff win. Listen, I'm a Kevin supporter and I don't think he's perfect. And I've said many times, like, I wish there were certain things he did differently. But I think overall, he's a good coach. And I think what's telling about that is I think he's well respected around the league. And I think if he were to let go in Cleveland, he would be a head coach right away. Worst case scenario, he'd be an offensive coordinator somewhere for like a season or 2 and then would be a head coach again.
I can tell you exactly what'll happen. He'll get fired by Cleveland. He'll get picked up by the Steelers. Tomlin will retire, and then he'll kick our ass every year and make all these guys cry about it.
Yeah,
you know, that's exactly what's going to happen.
Or I'll say he'll go to New England and coach there for 30 years. Just like back in the day. Yeah. So I think Kevin's a good coach. Do I think he is beyond, does he have flaws? Yes. People think Kyle Shanahan's a great coach. He definitely has flaws. Okay. So
100%.
All these coaches have flaws. Dan Campbell, I think, is a great coach. He's cost the Lions some games with his decision making.
Dude, he is super aggressive. Where our coach is like, they feel like he's non-aggressive. So, if you had to pick one flaw with Stefanski, because we're real, like we like him, but I mean, what would you say he's got to like correct either this season or over his tenure with the Browns?
For me, the biggest thing about him that I would like to see is I don't mind a Kevin offense, but I want to see it modernized. And Ken Dorsey, I don't think was the answer in terms of modernizing it. Like, we're still at the bottom of the league in motion, before the ball is snapped and when the ball is motion puts so much pressure on the defenses, like, and it helps your quarterback identify things pre-snap. And so I would like to see him bring his offense into the modern era a little bit more. Like, I still think a Kevin offense with a good, healthy quarterback, can be. It was a top 10 offense with Joe Flacco last year. I think this offense can put up points and be explosive. I would just like to see some modern things thrown in there with it. My maybe biggest gripe about Kevin this year is we seem to have taken a step back in terms of we don't look as well coached, we look not as disciplined. How much of that can be attributed to guys aren't bought into the quarterback, so they're just not as focused? But as a coach, I need you to like that. That's the biggest thing that scares me is I think Kevin has been a good coach in terms of holding people accountable and that kind of stuff. And this year we don't look disciplined and like we can't get personnel on the field, and we have to delay a game. So that is. Yeah. But overall, I think Kevin is a very good head coach.
Yeah, I agree. So I thought we were accountable the first year, and after that, that kind of went away with the wind. It just too many penalties, just weird things happening in the locker room, like Perry on Winfrey and the gun thing, and like just weird stuff like that. I mean, I don't think you can control the domestic situation. That's a tough one. I don't even know if anybody kind of saw that coming. But ultimately, when guys are ready or not ready for the game, especially in the quarterback position, clearly we've seen someone that has 2 games with a single-digit QBR. That has to be sat down. But again, we're talking about, does he have true control over that situation? And as the Baker situation I told you about too, where, he warmed up, he looked awful, he played awful, and that was a bad position, but was it by the team or was it by him? And if it's not by him, then how does he get that,
Does Kevin went out like his press conferences, sometimes he looks so defeated. It's like, he's just going, I could go coach somewhere less dysfunctional and not have to deal with this. Like, you see the picture from his introductory press conference, then his picture now, and it just looks like he's aged 25 years in the last 4 years.
Yeah, I mean, Baker seemed the same way when he was here. So ultimately, I mean, I don't know what happens there. Weird side note with Baker and Deshaun, like sometimes I feel like Deshaun looks like Baker. Like, how Baker would just stand there, and you're like, there's 3 open receivers, bro. Like, just fire that damn ball. Just fire it right now, and he doesn't go. He never did it. And you guys remember that big game against the Vikings and we won like 14-13 or 14-10. And he had Demetric Felton wide open. Looked at him. Like, I feel like it's the same thing with Deshaun over and over and over. Is there's just something that he just communicating at such a high level? He's not getting down to the lowest level, because, like, if you read anything by Jocko Willink, I mean, he says he's a military guy and he does a lot of military principles to business principles. He says you got to talk to the lowest common denominator. And right now, Deshaun ain't getting it. He just ain't getting it.
I guess like if to kind of talk about the Vrabel side of it, obviously Mike Vrabel fan. So same here. I'm not calling for Kevin Stefanski's job, but I've also said on the record that if we don't win any more games, or we only win one more game, I won't be shocked if he's fired, because you don't go 2-15 or 1-16 and keep your job most of the time. So then if that happens, I'm going to be like, man, I kind of, you can bring him back and change up the quarterback and see what you can do. But there are guys out there that I would be also happy to see in Cleveland, Vrabel being one of them. I would love to get an offensive guy that can maximize the talents on the offensive side of the ball, like a Ben Johnson. But Mike Vrabel takes care of a lot of things that people don't like in Cleveland in terms of discipline, accountability, toughness, hard-nosed AFC North football. So if you can get Vrabel in here with a young, up-and-coming offensive guy, maybe out of a McDaniel or a Sean McVay or a Shanahan coaching tree, to be your offensive coordinator, of course I would take that. Again, I'm not putting Kevin on the chopping block, but if God forbid something, he gets let go because we don't win any more games, Mike Vrabel is 100% somebody who I would be interested in coaching the Browns. Like, no doubt.
If you're Mike Vrabel though, and you see what's going on right now, and you basically got this DW4 anchor around your ankle, are you running?
No,
are you getting out of here?
That's been the point I've made a bunch of times since people started calling for Kevin's job a couple of weeks ago. Was if you fire Kevin Stefanski, especially if you fire him mid-season, you're not getting one of the top 3 coaching candidates coming out this year. Like Ben Johnson has turned coaching jobs down the last 2 years, I'm pretty sure, because he's waiting for the right time, because he knows you don't just get a ton of chances to be a head coach. So you're not going to get one of the top 2 or 3 guys if you fire Kevin Stefanski. Whoever you bring in is most likely going to be worse. Kevin has coached us to the playoffs twice in 4 years. It looks like it's going to be 2 out of 5 most likely. And let's be honest, he's pretty much coached in turmoil since he's been here. A COVID season coming off the Freddie year, a hurt Baker season, a season with a backup quarterback in Brissett for 11 games, and then maybe it wasn't Rusty, just a bad Deshaun for 6 games, and then
it's just the Deshaun mess.
Yeah, and a season with 5 quarterbacks. He's coached in turmoil the entire time he's been here, and up until this point, the Browns have been relatively successful in his time here. Like, we can all agree that it felt coming into this season that we were turning the corner, and this was a chance to have back-to-back good seasons. How much of the blame do you put on Kevin for this bad season? I guess depends on how much you put on him. Is he allowed to take Deshaun out? Because, and you knew, even if Deshaun did not look great in practice, Deshaun was going to be your starting quarterback this year to start. It didn't matter because they weren't going to give up on him without ever seeing him playing extended time healthy. They gave up the assets and they gave him the money. He was going to get a chance to be the starting quarterback. So how much of this do you put on Kevin Stefanski realistically? And I just don't know. You know what I mean? Like, this is such an anomaly, such a dumpster.
Well, let's say everybody on the internet that wants Stefanski fired, he's fired. Guess what happens? It's not going to be Vrabel coming in. Nope. There's no way he's going to inherit this mess, and he doesn't want this on his record. So you're going to get probably our special teams coach. I say Bubba Ventrone would come in, or Schwartz, right? And Schwartz doesn't have a great record as a head coach, right? He's a great defensive coordinator. But the other thing too is, let's say it also wipes out whatever Dorsey does. If you got to either adjust that offense or that defense to make something go, it takes like 4 games to get right. When a head coach is gone, you might win the first one, but then there's usually a tail off. Like, it doesn't go like Greg Williams. Like, Hugh Jackson was so bad. He was so bad as a coach that this guy watched Nick Chubb run for 100 yards on 3 carries or 5 carries, whatever it was, and he went and started Carlos Hyde the next day is what I'm trying to say, right? And it's very rare that it happens that way. It usually happens the other way. It takes the time, it takes whatever. If it does, this means Stefanski was the problem, and the team's responding. But I don't see the offense responding. I don't see I don't see the loss of the locker room on Kevin. I just see a loss of leadership right now.
I agree. I completely agree. And I think the Browns fans like Bubba Ventrone, offensive coordinator, and they all love Jim Schwartz as defensive coordinator. If you fire Kevin, all those guys are going to be gone. Whoever you bring in as the head coach next is going to bring in his own staff. So, and I just don't think the Browns need a complete rebuild.
No, I don't either.
I don't think they need a complete rebuild. They need to fix a couple pieces. The biggest one, though, is the quarterback position. I truly believe that if you were playing Jameis Winston at quarterback, the Browns would probably be 3-2 or 4-1. And we would not be talking about how there's so many holes on this team and all this stuff. Like, we'd say, we might be looking at, like, there's some things we need to fix and tweak. We need to add some depth, but we would not look like the dumpster fire we are.
The offensive line play is going to be bad. We'd have second string offensive tackles. Like it would have been looking bad no matter what.
But it was bad.
But the receivers, yeah, and it was exactly because we didn't have them last year either. And but the receivers are getting open. It just, if someone can throw the ball past 5 yards, 7 yards on a three step drop or a 5-step drop, 10 yards, like that stuff can happen. It's just not, because he's bailing out of the pocket, right? And like, I don't know, with Stefanski, like, to get back into it, I mean, you're getting someone that's 38 and 34 right now. Overall with Vrabel, he's 54 and 45 as a coach, so 54%. He's been in the playoffs 3 times. He had a run in 2019 where he was in 3 playoff games, won 2. But then after that, he had great seasons, but fizzled out, one and dones in the playoffs. So as good as his record is, it was basically 9 wins, 11 wins, 12 wins. That was the peak, and then it was 7-6, and he was out, right? So we were kind of topsy-turvy, where it was 8-7, and then 11 again. So we're looking like we're cruising to another like bad year, but we can do it like the Lions, man. So who knows? Maybe we can pull something out, but we need a quarterback change. So I don't see Vrabel as a candidate for this year or really period. So
I agree.
This episode is brought to you by Baden Sports. Browns fans, Baden Sports is your one-stop shop for all your athletic gear. Baden started out perfecting and manufacturing the best balls in the business. Yeah, if that sounded dirty, that's more about your mind than my words. But hey, it's true. Baseballs, softballs, footballs, basketballs, volleyballs, soccer balls, you name it, and Baden has engineered the highest standard sports balls available. And now they offer more than just sports balls. If you got kids playing baseball or softball, Baden has batting gloves and bats to go along with both game balls and training balls. If you're into basketball, Baden makes basketball specifically for indoor or outdoor use. Heck, Baden even has all the equipment you need for pickleball, which is one sport that I hear everyone is playing, and yet I still never have. And I need to fix that soon. But don't miss the backyard game section of Baden's website, where you can order everything you need for this upcoming outdoor season. Pool balls, backyard volleyball nets, croquet, bocce, horseshoes, cornhole, and more. Right now, you can get 10% off your entire order at Baden Sports, BADEN sports.com/dogs, DAWGS, and use promo code DOGS when you check out. That's 10% off all the top quality sporting gear you need this season. BadenSports.com/dogs.
So we got about 4 more minutes here before we wrap this up. The last thing I want to kind of talk, we already kind of talked about, we've obviously made our case about we would think Winston should play. So it looks like we've talked about it on this show a lot, that we would reserve judgment on the trade, whether it being if we won the trade or lost the trade, until the end of the contract. I don't know if we're going to make it to the end of the contract. So
no, God, no.
A lot of people are calling it the worst trade ever. Some people have called it that before, and we've always pushed back because it looked like he was kind of turning the corner a little bit last year in his healthy starts. That's what's really shocking to me about this year is, honestly, if you really just take like Deshaun Hader glasses off and you look at him last year in his healthy starts, he played pretty decent football. You know, what was it, like 7 touchdowns and only 2 picks or 3 picks, 800 yards or something, and we won games. We were 5-1, and it was like, so that's why I think there was so much excitement, and why, at least on this show, we were okay with not bringing the Kareem Hunt back and the Joe Flacco back. We saw Deshaun, when healthy, play pretty good football last year, and then he went out going 14-14 in the second half to lead a comeback against the Ravens, and it was like, okay, this guy, he figured it out. I've never seen a drop off like this in professional.
No, man, it's like it's like Mariana Trench deep. Like it's like way down there. And I don't know, like, this is from True Sempe. I mean, he said like the cut Deshaun Watson is driving him crazy. That's what he sees the most. Like, if you cut him today, that is a $172 million transaction. That is not going to happen. But what I was saying it yesterday in jest a bit, but if you break his contract down over 4 years, because he has 2 years left and 2 null years, it'd be $43 million a year. And then the part that I was making fun of is you typically go up $30 million a year, right? So it's not going to be 10, but you'll be ultimately operating at the 2021 salary cap while you're swallowing his salary, and you can put him at wherever, send him home, deactivate him. It's not like anybody's going to pick him up, right? Based on what they've seen on tape.
You can't cut him, like you said, but nothing says you have to play him, and you can keep him on your roster, and then that helps you navigate the cap going forward. I guess the only thing I wanted to say was, do I consider it the worst trade ever in sports? If you had asked me this last year, I'd have said no. I would have thrown out the Trey Lance trade to trade up and get Trey Lance, that kind of stuff. This is obviously at least in the conversation for one of the worst trades ever as we sit here today. That being said, I still do not blame the Browns for the move. I applaud the Browns for taking a chance and trying to go get this town a Super Bowl and being aggressive. And at the time, Deshaun Watson was believed to be a significantly better quarterback than everybody on our team. Even when we first traded for him and he came into the first training camp, every Cleveland reporter said, the way this guy throws the ball, is better than any quarterback we've ever seen here.
Oh, dude, Ian Rappaport said when the news broke that the Cleveland Browns are getting Deshaun Watson, who all GMs consider, he said all GMs consider a top 5 quarterback in the league.
Yes.
That's what they said that's what he said.
So we all our lives we've looked for that, and this front office and organization took the chance to go get it. It didn't work. That sucks. Trust me, it sucks. But I am never going to guess. It's great being the Steelers, and they never have a losing season, but they also haven't done. We have more playoff wins in the last 10 years than they do. Okay, I want to get to a Super Bowl, and my organization took the chance, and they went and got the guy that 16 teams were trying to get, and 4 other teams had a chance to get. Over half the league was trying to get this guy. So when people talk crap about the Browns for going after him and doing all this, it's just like a lot of teams were going after him. All right, so Josh probably just had to work some Hollywood magic because I lost internet right in the middle of my speech. I got back into the call. I have no idea what happened, and I can't remember what I was talking about. It was something about the worst trade ever, and not blaming the Browns for taking a swing, and they might have missed, but at least they took a swing, and I think this front office will take a swing again to get us on the right path, as long as we don't fire all of them. So,
yep.
We'll see what Josh comes up with in terms of creative. He's a great editor, so we'll see. He's going to earn his paycheck here. What about, we'll wrap this thing up. Kenny, any final thoughts you want to get out?
No, man, I had a great time dispelling some of these things that you read on the internet. I mean, if there was only like an emotional, irrational place that I could go where I could listen to people's thoughts. No, I'm just kidding. It's the internet, and that's what we're trying to dispel right now.
Yeah. If hopefully you guys enjoyed me and Kenny kind of giving you guys our thoughts on what we were talking about. We appreciate you guys watching this, our first one, hopefully first of many. If you want to get thoughts to us and you want us to talk about something, you just comment on the video or leave my internet went out again, so it probably looks stupid again. So I apologize. We tried to keep it really professional until the very end, and then it just went off the rails. Yeah. Nothing less out of the Dogs podcast. So I'm going to hurry up and wrap this up in case my internet goes out again. I haven't dropped internet in a year, and all of a sudden I'm trying to do this episode and I start dropping internet. So I guess that's the way the cookie crumbles sometimes. Again, we appreciate you guys checking out these episodes. Hopefully you guys enjoyed them. Again, if you want us to talk about something specific, leave us a voicemail just go to thedogspodcast.com or just comment in the video and we'll try to bookmark it and we'll save it and we'll get to it. We're going to try to do hopefully one of these a week as long as the schedule permits. So this won't be the last you see of myself and Kenny Mack. So again, we appreciate you guys being here. And we'll see you guys sometime next week when we're talking about the Eagles game.
Down with the birds, get brownies.
Thanks for listening to another episode of the Dogs Podcast. Make sure you subscribe on YouTube and follow us on Twitter at The Dogs Podcast. Get your thoughts on the show at thedogspodcast.com.
This episode is brought to you by Danger Coffee. Browns fans, we talk about how Danger Coffee is made free from mold toxins that are in 45% of the world's coffee, but that's not all that Danger Coffee has to offer. Mineral and nutrient deficiencies are a big deal. They make you feel sick, tired, stressed, and they can give you brain fog. These deficiencies negatively affect your immune system, your digestion, sleep, metabolism. Have you ever wondered why you get an initial burst from your coffee, but then you get that little crash not long after? Danger Coffee's patent-pending process remineralizes your body with more than 50 trace minerals and electrolytes, leaving you more energized, engaged, powerful. These micronutrients enter the cells to boost performance. They bind to toxins to provide detoxification support. I know that sounds like a lot, but the bottom line, guys, is minerals matter, and most of us really don't get enough of them on a daily basis. Danger Coffee delivers micronutrients, plus it gives you access to the minerals you already have. Head to dangercoffee.com, use our code DAWGS, DAWGS, for 10% off your order. And that code can be used over and over. So you get 10% off every order you make using code DAWGS. It's time to start every day off with a cup of coffee that gets you going and actually keeps you going. Dangercoffee.com, code DAWGS.
Vice President Kamala Harris.
I get it. The cost of rent, groceries, and utilities is too high. So here's what we're going to do about it. We will lower housing costs by building more homes and crack down on landlords who are charging too much. We will lower your food and grocery bills by going after price gougers who are keeping the cost of everyday goods too high. You work hard for your paycheck. You should get to keep more of it. As president, I'll make that my priority.
I'm Kamala Harris, candidate for president, and I approve this message.
Paid for by Harris for President.